Now, the school sessions will continue despite the current surge of COVID-19 infections in the country. Senior Education Minister Dato Dr. Muhammad Razzi Majidin said so far, the positive cases detected in schools are under control and strict standard operating procedures are in place with continuous monitoring. According to the data by the Health Ministry, the amount of clusters involving schools is small compared to the total number of cases, which majority of them were in categories 1 and 2.
Di Kementerian Pendidikan dan juga kita bincang dengan Kementerian Kesihatan, kita perlu melihat skop yang lebih luas, bukan sahaja jumlah kes tapi juga keadaan ataupun tekanan kepada sistem kesihatan. Pada masa ini seperti mana saya sebut tadi, bahawa kita akan teruskan sesi persekolahan ini mengambil kira kadar vaksinasi di seluruh negara yang tinggi.
Speaking after attending an engagement with teachers and parents teachers associations in Johor Bahru, he also urged parents to give their cooperation in implementing the National COVID-19 Immunization Program for Children PIC Kids. The Education Ministry also remains committed in helping the Health Ministry ensure that all parties at schools are vaccinated. Meanwhile, Dr. Muhammad Razzi said the Education Ministry will inform the Election Commission to avoid using secondary schools in Johor as polling centres next month due to the Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia SPM examinations that will proceed as scheduled nationwide. He said he will formally write a letter to the EC on the matter soon.
Hampir sebahagian besar sekolah menengah itu bilik-biliknya digunakan untuk tujuan pengurusan SPM atau pelaksanaan peperiksaan SPM. Ini termasuklah bilik isolasi, bilik kuarantin dan sebagainya. SOP kita cukup lengkap. Sebab itu kita mohon supaya kalau boleh sebaik-baiknya sebaik ini supaya tidak digunakan sekolah menengah ini sebagai pusat pembuangan undi. Untuk sekolah rendah tak apa.
Dr. Muhammad Razzi further explained that the ministry has not received any application from the EC on the use of schools as polling centres. He added that over 90% of the candidates have been vaccinated, giving assurance that the examinations will run smoothly and safely. Polling for the Johor state election has been fixed for 12 March, while the SPM written examinations have been scheduled between the 3rd and 29th March. The Health Ministry, MOH, is strongly recommending a booster dose of either Pfizer-BioNTech or AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. Although the MOH recommends a booster dose of Pfizer or AstraZeneca for the best top-up protection, Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said Sinovac vaccine is also available. Khairi shared a statement issued by Protect Health Corporation Sendirian Berhad, which announced that the Sinovac vaccine will be made available for booster doses at all off-site vaccination centres, PPVs, under the National COVID-19 Immunization Program for free from Monday. It said that those who are eligible for the booster dose and wish to obtain the Sinovac type vaccine can check the list of the off-site PPVs on the Protect Health website. Meanwhile, in another tweet, Khairi congratulated Sarawak and Malacca for the high vaccination rate under the National COVID-19 Immunization Program for Children, PIC Kids. As of 11 February, 7.7% of children in Sarawak and 6% in Malacca have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Yet to come, ECRL in Terengganu, 25.76% completed. Stay with us. But first, the reopening of the country's borders is important for economic recovery, and the Cabinet will soon hold a meeting regarding the proposal made by the National Recovery Council recently. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Economy, Datuk Sri Mustafa Mohamad said the government took the issue of border reopening seriously, and as such, there is a need to study it thoroughly before making any decision. Explaining further, he said several countries have already decided to reopen their borders, but the government needs to obtain the views of all quarters, especially the Health Ministry, before deciding on making a similar move.
Cukup fahamlah kenapa sempadan perlu dibuka. Dan kalau sempadan tak buka ni, ekonomi negara tak dapat pulih sepenuhnya. Keperluan ada, tapi kita kena mengambil kira juga pandangan kesihatan, ya, khususnya dalam keadaan Omicron ini bertambah serius.
He said this to reporters after attending the launching ceremony of the Bukit Bunga bypass project in Bukit Bunga, Jeli today. Previously, the National Recovery Council has proposed for the full reopening of the country's borders as early as 1st March, without the need for mandatory quarantine, but travellers must undergo the COVID-19 test before their departure and upon arrival in Malaysia, as per recommendation of the Health Ministry. The government is monitoring 92 sick or problematic projects nationwide. That is, those that are delayed beyond 2 months or 20% their completion dates. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department Economy, Dato Sri Mustafa Muhammad, said these projects were being monitored by the Implementation Coordination Unit of the Prime Minister's Department.
Jadi kita pantau dengan rapi melalui jawatankuasa, dipantau oleh ICU dan jawatankuasa saya di KSN, kita pantau semasa ke semasa. Pemilihan kontraktor silap, pengarah JK sudah maklum, ya. Pemilihan kadang silap pilih kontrak itu dikenal pasti sebagai faktor utama yang telah menjejaskan pelaksanaan projek. Ada juga berkaitan dengan konsultan, ya. Konsultan yang dilantik, kadang-kadang konsultan tak jalan ke tugas konsultan ni patut memastikan projek-projek berjalan dengan baik.
Commenting further, Dato Sri Mustafa said the government had taken appropriate steps to strengthen the criteria for selecting and appointing contractors and consultants, in addition to boosting the skills of civil servants in managing national development projects. He also noted that the Ministry of Education, compared to other ministries, has the highest number of sick projects at 22, while Sabah has the highest number of such projects at 16 by state. Construction works of the East Coast Rail Link ECRL in Terengganu is running smoothly, with about 25.76% completed as of January this year. Despite having to observe the work SOP set by the government, the mega project that covers 4 states is now 27.19% completed. Explaining further, Malaysia Rail Link MRL Chief Executive Officer Dato Sri Darwish Abdul Razak said all SOPs set could prevent the spread of COVID-19 among its workers.
Jajaran di negeri daripada Kelantan, Terengganu sehingga ke negeri Pahang dan Selangor ni, iaitu kita panggil jajaran Seksyen A, B dan Seksyen C1 akan siap pada Disember 2026 dan akan mula beroperasi pada 1 Januari 2027.
So setakat ini progres ni memang ikut jadual?
Kita mengalami sedikit kelewatan, tetapi kita boleh catch up balik. Ya. Secara keseluruhannya kita boleh capai kemajuan lebih baik pada tahun inilah.
He said this after attending the Jalinan Kasih ceremony, which was officiated by the MRL chairman Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, who is also the chief secretary to the government. The 665-kilometer rail network, which includes 59 tunnels with a total span of 61 kilometers, as well as several flyovers with a total length of 127 kilometers, is estimated to cost 50.27 billion ringgit and is scheduled for completion in December 2026. The needs to implement the work-from-home WFH policy for all civil servants following the recent surge of COVID-19 infections in the country will be examined before the matter can be brought to the Cabinet. Chief Secretary to the Government Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali said so far no directive or circular letter has been issued by the Public Service Department that allows the workers to work from home, as previously done before. Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki explained that he had received the guidelines issued by the National Security Council that is now being reviewed. He urged all 1.4 million civil servants to follow the stipulated standard operating procedures and pray that the number of daily COVID-19 cases will drop.
Kita akan teliti, saya tak boleh kata sekarang ni sebab benda ni saya kena bincang di peringkat kuartet dipanggil menteri-menteri, jemaah menteri. Kalau itu diputuskan oleh jawatankuasa tu kita akan patuhlah. Tapi setakat ni tak ada perbincangan ke arah tu. Cuma dia minta kita berhati-hatilah kalau dengan waspada kalau benda ni akan menyebabkan berlaku peningkatan Omicron.
Yesterday, Malaysia's daily new COVID-19 cases exceeded the 20,000 mark for the first time since September last year, with 20,939 infections. The Environment and Water Ministry will table the country's climate change bill at the next parliamentary session, and it is currently in the final stages of drafting. According to its Deputy Minister, Datuk Mansor Othman, among the contents of the bill was to ensure that climate change adaptation could be implemented to reduce the impact of floods. Elaborating further on the matter, Datuk Mansor said, the contents of the bill include climate change, mitigation and compliance mechanisms with rules and regulations.
No, untuk satu yang jadi adaptasi itu kalau climate change lah, iaitu untuk penyesuaian tentang jadi itu yang kita sedang terutama sekali kalau yang bagi perhatian tentang usaha mitigasi dan juga tentang satu lagi dengan circular economy lah untuk ekonomi hijau.
He said this to reporters at the Teluk Kumbar Flood Mitigation Project (RTB) Pump House handover ceremony near Balik Pulau today. Meanwhile, Datuk Mansor said the ministry has also identified several long-term and short-term mitigation measures to overcome the flood problem nationwide. He explained that his team had identified flood-prone areas and has proposed to construct flood mitigation projects soon. In addition, there were also proposals to build water reservoirs and riverside reservoirs cities, develop flood-resistant settlement in new housing areas, and strengthen the early warning system so that immediate action can be taken by the authorities and residents. The government's measures to tackle the economic crisis have increasingly borne fruit, as evidenced by the 3.1% GDP growth recorded in 2021. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Semasa said the reopening of nearly all economic and social sectors, along with high domestic and foreign demand, would continue to drive growth. The government, he further said in a Facebook post, would ensure the economic growth forecast of between 5.5% and 6.5% for 2022 was achieved. He said it is important that this economic growth is enjoyed by people from all walks of life through increased sources of income and curbs against rising inflation. The Prime Minister's post added the GDP growth figures for 2021 was at 3.1% and the fourth quarter of 2021 at 3.6%. The government has maintained the country's economic growth forecast for 2022 in the range of 5.5% to 6.5%. Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz said the figure was also in line with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and World Bank projections of 5.7% and 5.8% respectively. Elaborating further, in the 84th Implementation and Coordination Unit between national agencies Laksana report released today, he said the continued momentum of the country's economic recovery is clearly visible, with a gross domestic product (GDP) growth of 3.1% for 2021. The Department of Statistics Malaysia and Bank Negara have announced GDP growth of 3.1% in 2021, in line with the government's projection of between 3% and 4%. This figure is an improvement over 2020, when GDP contracted by 5.6%. The minister said the increase in GDP reflected the momentum of economic recovery that was clearly visible during the fourth quarter of last year, especially through improving economic indicators. He said investors will also seem to be more confident in the country's recovery prospects. Meanwhile, Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul reports that 20.339 billion ringgit were channeled to 357,520 employers through the Wage Subsidy Program or PSU. Now, this is to maintain the employment of 2,953,741 local workers in an effort to reduce the unemployment rate among Malaysian workers. With an allocation of 600 million ringgit under Budget 2022, the government, through the Social Security Organisation (SOCSO), will continue the implementation of PSU targeted at tourism operators who experience a decrease of at least 30% of total sales or income in October 2021. to December 2021 compared to any month in 2019 until 2021 before the outbreak of the COVID-19 epidemic. He said applications have been open since the 1st of January until 31st of March, but employers from sectors and industrial activities not listed but are still affected by the COVID-19 outbreak can also submit an appeal online to SOCSO. Meanwhile, for SME soft loans funds under the purview of Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM, the total amount approved by local banks and accepted by SMEs is 12.59 billion ringgit, which will benefit 26,379 SMEs as of the 4th of February. This amount includes Special Relief Facility (SRF), Automation and Digitalization Facility (ADF), All Economic Sector Facility (AES), and Agro-Food Facility (AF) funds. After a delay of nearly 3 years, the mission to conquer the world's highest peak of Mount Everest is now back on track, with 10 Malaysian climbers of various races, religions and backgrounds. Now, this mission will also, for the first time, be anchored by uniformed unit personnel that aim to bring the spirit of goodwill and unity to the world stage, as well as to inculcate the aspirations of Keluarga Malaysia, the Malaysian family, among the people. Led by 33-year-old Azim Afif Ishak, who is the Altitude Exploration Club president, the team will depart for Nepal next month for the 63-day mission, whose most challenging part will be making the ascent during the fasting month of April.
Kita dalam suasana COVID ini memang sangat mencabar lah. Kita PKP 1, PKP 2, PKP 3, ada buka sekejap kita bersama. Bila dia tutup, maksudnya kita balik ke latihan kendiri. Kita juga dihantar semula ke hospital Selayang Perubatan Sukan untuk test, untuk sekali lagi diuji adakah kita masih lagi dalam keadaan yang baik.
He said this after ceremony to introduce the climbers for the 2022 Malaysia Everest mission in Putrajaya today. Azim had conquered the summit of Mount Everest in 2016 via the Tibetan route, and this time the mission is a test for him to scale the summit again, but via Nepal. Another unique feature of the mission is that it will involve uniformed unit members from the Civil Defence Force (APM) and VAT 69 of the Royal Malaysia Police (PDRM), as well as a member of the Persons with Disabilities. In our top story, school sessions to continue with strict SOP. Join us for updates at noon at 12:30 tomorrow. Till then, it's lights out. I'm Brendan Paul. Have a great weekend. Take care. Thanks for watching.